I'll give.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'll just say next slide, please, when you are on the slideshow.
Yes, ma'am. No worries.
Yeah. So we'll wait for another few minutes and then start.
Let me just see how many.
There are 9 participants is what I can see.
Let's wait for 2 more minutes and then we'll start.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think we can start.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So good evening, everyone. So this is going to be an offbeat topic because it's an obstetric topic, but most of us.
I'm really sorry, ma'am, but you're barely audible.
Oh, okay.
And now it is better.
It's better now?
Yes.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. So this is going to be a bit of an offbeat topic because it's an obstetric topic to discuss, nothing related to infertility as such, but a very important topic because we are basically obstetricians, all of us, all gynecologists, and we are dealing with a lot of C-sections which we are doing nowadays. So this spectrum becomes very important, which is known as a placenta accreta spectrum. So next slide, please. So, what do you mean? What do we mean when we speak about the placenta accreta spectrum? It is like an abnormal invasion of a part of placenta into the muscle of the uterus, that is the myometrium or the uterine wall. So, usually the placenta, which is giving all the nutrition to the baby, is easily detachable from the wall of the uterus. But in this case, the placenta is invading the wall of the uterus, which is abnormal. So, placenta accreta spectrum is associated with increased maternal morbidity and mortality because primarily due to severe obstetric hemorrhage, which occurs, requiring a lot of blood transfusions to be given to the patient, with higher rates of peripartum hysterectomy, which we will need to do with the cesarean section, and prolonged hospitalization. Next slide, please. So, when we talk about how we grade, because there are types in which the placenta may be adherent. So, the first grade 1 is an abnormally adherent placenta or the placenta accreta. Sometimes when we do a normal vaginal delivery and the placenta doesn't separate in spite of giving everything, and we try to attempt a manual removal, we may end up with a lot of bleeding. And that means that the placenta is adherent to the wall of the uterus and it may require an operative intervention to remove the placenta, or we may need to go ahead with removal of the uterus as well. But placenta accreta is still manageable. When we talk about the grade 2, that is placenta increta, what happens is that during a cesarean section, we see that there is purplish blue discoloration at the uterine lower segment because the bulge is due to the placenta, which is invading into the myometrium. It has gone into the tissue of the muscle, and that is showing a lot of vascularity, means lot of big vessels are seen above that. So that is how we label as placenta increta. Again, this we cannot deal with only by doing a C-section. We can not try to remove the placenta, and we may require a cesarean hysterectomy for this. Now, grade 3 is divided into 3A, B, and C. These are all very, very difficult cases to handle and are rapidly increasing nowadays. One is abnormally invasive placenta, which is known as the placenta percreta, which can be limited to the uterus. Grade 3B, where the placenta percreta invades into the bladder, which is the organ immediately in front of the uterus. And a grade C, where the placenta percreta invades into the other pelvic organs in the vicinity. So these are all the dangerous grades of placenta percreta. And in all of these, there is so much of blood loss that we end up doing a cesarean hysterectomy, means we'll have to remove the uterus during the cesarean section after delivery of the baby. Why is it of so much importance to us nowadays is, and why we needed to address this topic? Next slide, please. Yeah, so from suspicion to confirmation, it is very important because these kind of abnormality can be detected in the antenatal period when the patient is pregnant by looking at the placenta on ultrasound. So these are some signs which are there on Doppler, which show placental lacunae, which is known as a Swiss cheese pattern, loss of the zone between the uterus and the placenta. The muscle above the placenta, that is myometrium, becomes very thinned out. The placenta is seen bulging outside, and there is bladder wall interruption also, and lot of vascularity, lot of blood vessels are seen above the placenta or the lower uterine segment where the placenta is invading. So these are some confirmatory signs of the placenta accreta spectrum. Second slide, next slide, please. So this is abnormal vascularity seen at the lower uterine segment. Next slide. We are not going into the depth of MRI, but sometimes we need to get an MRI for confirming because lot of planning is required before we take such a case up for cesarean section. So I'll not go into the depth of this. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so most importantly, we as obstetricians, if we are getting a patient who is having a previous one cesarean section, previous two cesarean sections, for doing an elective cesarean section, we have to suspect placenta creta spectrum in any patient where there is placenta previa, means that the placenta is low lying and there is a history of a scar on the uterus, that is the cesarean scar. Then the chance that the placenta will get attached to this scar is very, very high. So, first trimester, when we see the patient between 12 to 16 weeks, it is a highly accurate diagnosis, and early identification helps us to identify that these are all high risk patients. As I said, in the ultrasound, if placental lacunae, bladder wall disruption are seen, and the zone between the myometrium and the placenta is lost, it is a confirmatory sign that this patient has a placenta which is adherent to the uterine wall. Color Doppler is very crucial in identifying bridging vessels and abnormal placental bed vascularity. MRI should be reserved for inconclusive ultrasound cases or a posterior placenta with T2 dark bands being the most sensitive marker for the diagnosis. So sometimes it is a posterior placenta, so we may not suspect. But if the patient has a history where the patient has undergone a DNC procedure in the past, a DNE procedure in the past, or some intervention inside the uterine cavity has been done to remove a polyp, there are high chances that even if it is a posterior placenta, it can be adherent. So we need to be very, very careful. And so these are important take home messages when we speak about the placenta creta spectrum. Next slide, please. Coming to the management, I will just touch upon the important parts. This is very important because even in our day-to-day practice, if we are getting an IVF conceived patient who had a previous cesarean section and the placenta creta spectrum is seen commonly in IVF conceived patients as well, we have to focus on patient counseling, pre-operative preparation, because these kind of cases requires multidisciplinary approach. It should be approached as a team wherein we have experts dealing with it. So a multidisciplinary approach, and the timing of admission and when to perform the cesarean section. Admission should be individualized based on the symptoms, the severity of the creta spectrum, the obstetric history, and access to a good multidisciplinary approach or a tertiary care center. Stable, asymptomatic women with reliability on transport and close follow-up can be managed as outpatient departments as routine antenatal care we give. Hospital admission is indicated for recurrent bleeding episodes, uterine contraction, cervical shortening, if there is leaking, or a poor access to an emergency care is there. So the guidelines say that all patients, even though they are stable, should be operated in a window between 34 weeks to 35 weeks plus 6 days of gestation. Next slide. So operative management. So there are two types of managements for placenta creta spectrum. One is a non-conservative management, that we do a cesarean section where we don't touch the placenta. We just put an incision on the upper uterine segment, we deliver the baby, and then without removing the placenta to decrease the blood loss, we go ahead with a hysterectomy. All consents being taken prior to dealing with this patient pre-op. If we have to think about, just a moment. If you have to think about uterine preservation, then partial myometrial resection with where the invasive placenta is removed and uterine reconstruction is done with reinforcement of bladder, not giving very good results. Again, a triple P procedure where we localize the placenta, we do stepwise devascularization by like ligating the uterine artery, the descending cervical artery, and then bilateral internal iliac ligation, and keeping the placenta just in situ by giving methotrexate and following up the patient. Again, not a very good approach because this can land with septicemia and a secondary hemorrhage. So these approaches are not followed majority of the times. If the spectrum is bad, we are going to do a cesarean hysterectomy. Next slide, please. So strategies to decrease intraoperative blood loss, because this is the most important thing. Most of the patients have such torrential hemorrhage that the entire circulating volume is lost. So massive blood transfusions need to be given in these patients. So tranexamic acid is a drug which we are giving nowadays to decrease hemorrhage, even postpartum hemorrhage. So 1 gram IV before surgery. Internal iliac balloon occlusion, ligation, both are possible depending upon the setup, but internal artery iliac balloon occlusion is not giving such good benefit as ligation. So we should be thinking of having an expert with us who can perform an internal iliac ligation to decrease blood loss. So when we are doing a cesarean hysterectomy, there is no role of giving a lot of uterotonics. It is most important to control the pelvic bleeding. So other options are a Buckley or a Foley's balloon and stepwise devascularization, or a temporary devascularization by a Foley's tourniquet. Again, all these are not methods which are being used. Most important is another thing which can be done is a transverse compression sutures. Our own Mahesh Gupta sir from Ahmedabad has devised a lower segment compression suture for the placental bed, and sometimes it does help in preventing a hysterectomy if the patient wants to preserve the uterus and it is possible for us to decrease blood loss with this procedure, we can go ahead. Other thing is a massive blood transfusion protocol means we have to be ready. Next slide. We have to ready with a lot of blood products in place. The guidelines say that we have to transfuse in the ratio of 1:1:1. So means if we are giving 6 blood transfusions, we have to give 6 units of FFP and 6 units of platelet. And this forms the most important strategy when we are dealing with a placenta accreta spectrum. So everything pre-op preparation, counseling, managing blood products, and then going ahead with surgery will help us to save the life of the patient. Next slide, please. So this is one case which we just recently had, where the patient had a placenta accreta after previous 2 cesarean sections, and she had a breech presentation, and the diagnosis was placenta increta. So we were very sure that we had to go with the cesarean hysterectomy. So we managed by keeping 4 blood transfusions ready, 4 platelets, and 4 PRPs, 4 FFPs ready. And after ensuring that the baby was delivered, we went ahead with internal iliac ligation, and then we did the cesarean hysterectomy. We could decrease the blood loss to a great extent, and the patient was discharged on the 12th postoperative day. So this was one poster which we had presented in a recent SOGOC conference which happened a week back, and this was a good outcome of the patient because the patient was managed right from the time she was in her first trimester till delivery with us, and it was a well managed case because the patient did not have any morbidities and came out well with a good outcome of the baby as well. So the purpose of discussing this was because we are dealing with these kind of cases a lot nowadays because of the increasing rate of cesarean sections. So we need to be very careful when we are seeing a patient, and we have to do the best to diagnose and treat the patient in the best way possible. Thank you all for your patient listening. This was an offbeat obstetric topic, but I hope I was able to give some message to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think anyone would have any questions for this topic, I'm very sure. But still,
But
if
it
anybody
was
has...
such a pleasure to listen to you. You present really well, ma'am.
Ah,
And we got engaged in the topic.
thank you so much. I hope I'll sometimes present something related to infertility, and I'll be happy to do that next time.
Definitely, ma'am, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll love to hear that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If anybody have any question, we still have 10 minutes left in the meeting.
I think Shetal, Kushal, and all could have because they're dealing with obstetrics. But I think Shetal is not free to join, I guess.
Kunal sir is here, I think.
Yeah.
Ma'am, any newer therapies for written placenta?
No, nowadays even they are saying that even methotrexate has become obsolete. You should not be giving methotrexate also.
I want to ask one thing.
Huh?
So, in January 2023, I had done a C-section for placenta accreta,
Okay.
and we were able to remove the placental part from the myometrial tissue.
Okay.
And luckily, obstetric hysterectomy was
Was
prevented.
prevented. Yeah, Akrita, I think, can be
But
still managed.
surprisingly, after that, she has not got any menses.
Oh, then means she must
So,
have gone into, I don't know, lot of blood loss.
but I think she must have, the endometrial part must have also been removed during the
Yeah,
separation of placental tissue.
possible. Basal layer must have been eroded at that time.
I
Yeah.
mean, whenever I check her yearly, I do a checkup.
Yeah.
But she
Okay.
only has a simple 5 centimeter uterus without any endometrial
Oh.
lining.
So she has gone into.
And she is not planning any pregnancy further because already previous 3 C-section were there.
Yeah.
And she is also fine. But this is the rare thing which I observed.
Yeah, this is a rare thing. I agree. So because even I have done a lot of B-Lynch sutures, Haymans and all, and bad toe stitches taken at multiple locations, but still the patients do have their regular menses after that. I haven't seen many patients who have not been able to menstruate, but I guess what you did was you just eroded the basal layer of the endometrium as well. So then
Probably, because
yeah,
I gave
probably.
everything, Proganova, Maprite, and
But still she did
everything.
not give. Yeah, then the basal layer is gone.
Yes,
Nothing
yes,
else. Yeah. But I think you are going to deal more and more if you're doing obstetrics. This is becoming so common, especially previous one.
because of the
Low lying placentas are seen more. Placenta previa is also seen more, and adherence is also seen a lot. But I think even if Akrita you can still manage without a hysterectomy, I agree to that. But Increta and Percreta, you need a multidisciplinary approach to save the patient, definitely. Really bad hemorrhage, yani 4 liters, 5 liters blood loss on table. So you're at a loss. How do you?
You have to be prepared. I mean, you
You have
need
to be
4
very
blood
much
units in
prepared.
hand.
Yes. Everything pre-op ready, and then only you open up.
And at least 3 good surgeons.
Yes, very true. And one neurosurgeon required because bladder and lower uterine segment cannot be differentiated only when you do a hysterectomy. You don't understand what anatomy because everything is papery thin. Everywhere there is only placental tissue seen. So it's a bad scenario, definitely. But if you are able to save the patient, then you feel good about it. Otherwise, we have seen a lot of mortalities also. Not that it's not seen. Institute